Tasha, good day, family. That's horrible, TT. Shalom, Auntie. Great rising, Shayla, great rising. I'm adjusting this screen here. Y'all, it's Friday already. Where does the time go? Where is it? Shema YisraEL. Okay, there we go. Everybody sleep good? I hope everybody slept good. I slept good. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm pulling my other thing up real quick. I think I overlooked it. Oh, there you go. All right. Peace and blessings, Aliyah. Peace and blessings. Okay, beautiful people. All right, y'all. What time we at? We still got a minute? We still got a minute. I'm ready. We still got a minute to go. I'm just basking this minute before we get started. Okay, let's make sure this is good. Okay. Not that I really expected. If anybody, we've had it happen a few times on doing live on Facebook. Anybody come in making any kind of ignorant comments, ignore it. Don't respond to it. Don't give into it. Because it's going to draw everybody away to the fight. Like they're supposed to be paying attention to the teacher. Everybody now crowding around, see who's fighting. So we're going to try and stop all that. I try to delete them if I see them in a comment. Sometimes I will engage, though, just to make it a teaching moment. Not that those that are already fighting are even looking for a lesson, but I try to make the most of it. I try to use my humor, but some people just don't get it. Some people can't detect sarcasm, but it's a good sarcasm, though, so yeah, you be on it. TT, look, if y'all over here, I told the ones who are on Facebook, if you come up on YouTube, I give you a wrench just in case. I just kind of want to be prepared for it anyway. Not that I think is going to happen, but just in case, I don't want to keep a bunch of garbage, Ain't nobody got time for that. Right. Yeah, Aliyah. I ignored some of the comments, but I did engage a few. Like I said, I tried to make it a teaching lesson. Try to bring people's mind back to the topic at hand. So, but okay, y'all, that's our minute. Let's get going. It is Friday, April the 9th, 2021, day 193 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 792. Remember, that's 792 days that we have been present reading through the scriptures, word for word, from the beginning to the end. This is our 3rd time doing it, right? And that is without the Sabbath days and the feast days added into the count. Why? Because we rest, as Yahuah has commanded that. He said, 6 days you have to work, rest on one of them days. So we sleeping in quite a long time on the Sabbath day. Well, I try to. My kids is up. They wake me up. I try to get at least 15 extra minutes of sleep. Sometimes it just don't happen like that for me. So, but I hope y'all get rest. I do, though, throughout the day. And every time I can grab a piece. Okay, y'all. Let's go ahead and do the Shema, which is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. And we start at verse 3. Remember, read the whole chapter for the full context of what Yahuah is saying. We just kind of pulled the meat of it out so we can just kind of just get right to it, right? So we can make it our daily thing that we always remember, that just like he told us. Hear, therefore, Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, he is one God, and you shall love Yahuah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do these commandments before Yahuah our God, as he has commanded us. And remember, when it says you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, remember, with Yahuah, the hand, when he talks about his hand, I'm bringing them out with my mighty hand and my mighty arm. It represents action. They shall be as frontlets between your eyes, representing the thoughts, what you ponder upon. Those that meditate upon Yahuah's word shall make their way prosperous before them. Your thoughts drive your action, your hand, and a frontlets between your eyes. Let Yahuah's word, his sign, be upon you. When it is manifested through those faculties that we carry in our physical body, seen and unseen. Wisdom will be seen. Wisdom which is unseen shall be seen by the acts of her children. Wisdom's children are those who take her wisdom and apply it to their life, right? And as we learn that, we teach our household, meaning to write them upon the posts of our house and on our gates, right? We should be firm pillars for the Most High, teaching his word, not only in spirit, but also in truth. In truth. We got a lot of people that's teaching out of spirit and emotion, but they are truth deficient. All right, y'all. So let's get to the reading today. We're reading 2 Samuel chapter 22, 23, and 24. And we're starting off with King David's song of praise. David sang this song to Yahuah on a day that Yahuah rescued him from all his enemies and from Saul. He sang, Yahuah is my rock, my fortress, and my savior. My God is my rock, in whom I find protection. He is my shield, the power that saves me, and my place of safety. He is my refuge, my savior, and the one who saves me from violence. I called on Yahuah, who is worthy of praise, and he saved me from all my enemies. The waves of death overwhelmed me. Floods of destruction swept over me. The grave wrapped its ropes around me. Death laid a trap in my path. But in my distress, I cried out to Yahuah. Yes, I cried to my God for help. He heard me from his sanctuary. My cry reached his ears. Then the earth quaked and trembled. The foundations of the heavens shook. They quaked because of his anger. Smoke poured from his nostrils. Fierce flames leaped from his mouth. Glowing coals blazed forth from him. He opened the heavens and came down. Dark storm clouds were beneath his feet. Mounted on a mighty angelic being, he flew, soaring on the wings of the wind. He shrouded himself in darkness, veiling his approach with dense rain clouds. A great brightness shone around him, and burning coals blazed forth. Yahuah thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot arrows and scattered his enemies. His lightning flashed, and they were confused. Then at the command of Yahuah, at the blast of his breath, the bottom of the sea could be seen, and the foundations of the earth were laid bare. He reached down from heaven and rescued me. He drew me out of the deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemies, from those who hated me and were too strong for me. They attacked me at a moment when I was in distress, but Yahuah supported me. He led me to a place of safety. He rescued me because he delights in me. Yahuah rewarded me for doing right. He restored me because of my innocence, for I have kept the ways of Yahuah, and I have not turned from Yahuah to follow evil. I have followed all his regulations. I have never abandoned his decrees. I am blameless before Yahuah. I have kept myself from sin. Yahuah rewarded me for doing right. He has seen my innocence. To the faithful, you show yourself faithful. To those with integrity, you show integrity. To the pure, you show yourself pure. But to the crooked, you show yourself shrewd. You rescue the humble, but your eyes watch the proud and humiliate them. O Lord, you are my lamp. The Lord lights up my darkness. In your strength, I can crush an army, and with my God, I can scale any wall. Yahuah's way is perfect. All Yahuah's promises prove true. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. For who is God except Yahuah? But our God is a solid rock. God is my strong fortress, and he makes my way perfect. He makes me as sure-footed as a deer, enabling me to stand on mountain heights. He trains my hands for battle. He strengthens my arm to draw a bronze bow. You have given me your shield of victory. Your help has made me great. You have made a wide path for my feet to keep them from slipping. I chased my enemies and destroyed them. I did not stop until they were conquered. I consumed them. I struck them down so that they did not get up. They fell beneath my feet. You have armed me with strength for the battle. You have subdued my enemies under my feet. You placed my foot on their necks. I have destroyed all who hated me. They looked for help, but no one came to their rescue. They even cried to Yahuah, but he refused to answer. I ground them as fine as the dust of the earth. I trampled them in the gutter like dirt. You gave me victory over my accusers. You preserved me as the ruler over nations. People I don't even know now serve me. Foreign nations cringe before me. As soon as they hear of me, they submit. They lose all their courage and come trembling from their strongholds. Yahuah lives. Praise my rock. May Yahuah, the rock of my salvation, be exalted. He is the God who pays back all those who harm me. He brings down the nations under me and delivers me from my enemies. You hold me safe beyond the reach of my enemies. You save me from violent opponents. For this, O Yah, I will praise you among the nations. I will sing praises to your name. You give great victories to your king. You show unfailing love to your anointed and David and all his descendants forever. Wow, that was so good. We pull in today's title from David's Thanksgiving. I'm gonna pull something out of that for our title today, y'all. All right, David's last words, 2 Samuel chapter 23. These are the last words of David. David, the son of Jesse, speaks. David, the man who was raised up so high. David, the man anointed by the God of Jacob. David, the sweet psalmist of Israel. The spirit of Yahuah speaks through me. His words are upon my tongue. The God of Israel spoke. The rock of Israel said to me, the one who rules righteously, who rules in the fear of Yahuah, is like the light of morning at sunrise, like a morning without clouds, like the gleaming of the sun on new grass after rain. Is it not my family Yahuah has chosen? Yes, he has made an everlasting covenant with me. His agreement is arranged and guaranteed in every detail. He will ensure my safety and success, but the godless are like thorns to be thrown away, for they tear the hand that touches them. One must use iron tools to chop them down. They will be totally consumed by fire. These are the names of David's mightiest warriors. The first was Joshabin, the Hakmonite, who was leader of the three mightiest warriors among David's men. He once used his spear to kill 800 enemy warriors in a single battle. Next in rank among the three was Eleazar, son of Dodai. a descendant of Yahuah. Once Eleazar and David stood together against the Philistines when the entire Israelite army had fled. He killed Philistines until his hand was too tired to lift his sword, and Yahuah gave him a great victory that day. The rest of the army did not turn until it was time to collect the plunder. Next in rank was Shammah, son of Agi from Harar. One time the Philistines gathered at Lehi and attacked the Israelites in a field full of lentils. The Israelite army fled, but Shammah held his ground in the middle of the field and beat back the Philistines. So Yahuah brought about a great victory. Once during a harvest, when David was at the cave of Adullam, the Philistine army was camped in the valley of Rephaim. The three who were among the 30, an elite group among David's fighting men, went down to meet him there. David was staying in a stronghold at the time, and a Philistine detachment had occupied the town of Bethlehem. David remarked lovingly to his men, "Oh, how I would love some of that good water from the well by the gate in Bethlehem." So the three broke through the Philistine lines, drew some water from the well by the gate in Bethlehem, and brought it back to David. But he refused to drink it. Instead, he poured it out as an offering to Yahuah. "Yahuah forbid that I should drink this," he exclaimed. "This water is as precious as the blood of these men who risked their lives to bring it to me." So David did not drink it. These are the examples of the exploits of the three. Abishai, son of Zeruiah, the brother of Joab, was the leader of the 30. He once used his spear to kill 300 enemy warriors in a single battle. It was by such feats that he became as famous as the three. Abishai, the most famous of the 30, and was their commander. Hold on, I read it too fast. Abishai was the most famous of the 30 and was their commander, though he was not one of the three. There was also Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, a valiant warrior from Kabzeel. He did many heroic deeds, which included killing 2 champions of Moab. Another time, on a snowy day, he chased a lion down into a pit and killed it. Once, armed only with a club, he killed an imposing Egyptian warrior who was armed with a spear. Benaiah wrenched the spear from the Egyptian's hand and killed him with it. Deeds like these made Benaiah as famous as the 3 mightiest warriors. He was more honored than the other members of the 30, though he was not one of the 3, and David made him the captain of his bodyguard. Other members of the 30 included Asahel, Joab's brother, Elhanan, the son of Dodo from Bethlehem, Shammah from Harod, Elika from Herod, Helez from Pelon, Ira, son of Ikish from Tekoa, Abiezer from Anathoth, Sibbecai from Husha, Zalmon from Ahoah, Mahari from Netophah, Helad, son of Banan from Netophah, Ittai, son of Ribai from Gibeah in the land of Benjamin, Benaiah from Pirathon, Hurai from Nahel Gash, Abi Alban from Araba, Asmaveth from Bahurim, Eliabah from Shelban, the son of Jashan, Jonathan, son of Shagi from Harar, Ahiam, son of Sherar from Harar. I'm sorry, I'm screwing these names up, forgive me. Eliphalet, son of Hashbai from Mecca, Elam, son of Ahithophel from Gilo, Hezro from Carmel, Parai from Arba, Egal, son of Nathan from Zobah, Benai from Gad, Zelek from Ammon, Naharai from Berah, the armor bearer of Joab, son of Zeruiah, Ira from Jatir, Garrett from Jatir, Uriah the Hittite. There were 37 in all. All right, last chapter for the day, y'all. 2 Samuel, chapter 24. David takes a census. Once again, the anger of Yahuah burned against Israel, and he caused David to harm them by taking a census. "Go and count the people of Israel and Judah," Yahuah told him. So the king said to Joab and the commanders of the army, "Take a census of all the tribes of Israel, from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south, so I may know how many people are there." But Joab replied to the king, "May Yahuah, your God, let you live to see 100 times as many people as there are now." "But why, my lord the king? Why do you want to do this?" But the king insisted that they take a census. So Joab and the commanders of the army went out to count the people of Israel. First, they crossed the Jordan and camped at Aror, south of the town in the valley, in the direction of Gad. Then they went on to Jazer, then to Gilead and the land of Tatim Hodshi, and to Dejan and around Sidon. Then they came to the fortress of Tyre and all the towns of the Hivites and Canaanites. Finally, they went south to Judah as far as Beersheba. Having gone through the entire land for 9 months and 20 days, they returned to Jerusalem. Joab reported the number of people to the king. There were 800,000 capable warriors in Israel who could handle a sword, and 500,000 in Judah. But after he had taken the census, David's conscience began to bother him, and he said to Yahuah, I have sinned greatly by taking this census. Please forgive my guilt, Yahuah, for doing this foolish thing. The next morning, the word of Yahuah came to the prophet Gad, who was David's seer. This was the message. Go and say to David, this is what Yahuah says. I will give you 3 choices. Choose one of these punishments, and I will inflict it upon you. So Gad came to David and asked him, will you choose 3 years of famine throughout your land, 3 months of fleeing from your enemies, or 3 days of severe plague throughout your land? Think this over and decide what answer I should give to Yahuah who sent me. I am in a desperate situation, David replied to Gad, but let all of us fall into the hands of Yahuah, for his mercy is great. Don't let me fall into human hands. So Yahuah sent a plague upon Israel that morning, and it lasted for 3 days. A total of 70,000 people died throughout the nation, from Dan in the north to Beersheba in the south. But as the angel was preparing to destroy Jerusalem, Yahuah relented and said to the death angel, stop, that is enough. At that moment, the angel of Yahuah was by the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. When David saw the angel, he said to Yahuah, I am the one who has sinned and done wrong. But these people are as innocent as sheep. What have they done? Let your anger fall against me and my family. That day, Gad came to David and said to him, go up and build an altar to Yahuah on the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. So David went up to do what Yahuah commanded him. When Araunah saw the king and his men coming toward him, he came and bowed before the king with his face to the ground. Why have you come to my lord the king? Why have you come, my lord the king? Araunah asked. David replied, I have come to buy your threshing floor and to build an altar to Yahuah there so that he will stop the plague. Take it, my lord the king, and use it as you wish, Araunah said to David. Here are oxen for the burnt offering, and you can use the threshing boards and the ox yokes for wood to build a fire on the altar. I will give it all to you, your majesty, and may Yahuah your God accept your sacrifice. But the king said to Araunah, no, I insist on buying it, for I would not present burnt offerings to Yahuah my God that have cost me nothing. So David paid him 50 pieces of silver for the threshing floor and the oxen. David built an altar there to Yahuah and sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings, and Yahuah answered his prayer for the land, and the plague on Israel was stopped. All right, y'all. And that was actually the last 3 chapters of 2 Samuel. So tomorrow we actually pick up Kings. Oh my gosh, we get into some stories I couldn't wait to get to. Oh my gosh. Okay, y'all. So move this down. Bring this over. Adjust my screen. Uncle Nathaniel, greetings. Uncle James Brown, morning. What y'all got going on over here in the feed? I'll read that later. Hold on. Let me pull this up. All right, y'all. Legends of the Jews. We're picking it up with page 474. Remember, we're talking about the prophet Jeremiah is giving more detail on what happened to Jeremiah, which should have been canonized when they canonized, but they decided not to. They just pulled out pieces. And so we're reading these to fill these pieces in so we won't be running off with incomplete details. Okay, so volume 4, chapter, I think this was chapter 11. I'm sorry, no, chapter 10. I'm going to write it to it. Chapter 10. The section is Jeremiah's Journey to Babylon, and the page number is 474. Remember, if you have the smaller book, it's the same information. The book is just smaller, so the page numbers are numbered differently because the pages are smaller. So that's why I give you the title, Jeremiah's Journey to Babylon. All right. When Nebuchadnezzar dispatched his general, Nebuzaradan, to the capture of Jerusalem, he gave him 3 instructions regarding the maltreatment of Jeremiah. Take him and look well to him, and do him no harm, but do unto him even as he shall say unto thee. At the same time, he enjoined him to use pitiless cruelty toward the rest of the people. But the prophet desired to share the fate of his suffering brethren, and when he saw a company of youths in the pillory, he put his own head into it. Nebuzaradan would always withdraw him again. Thereafter, if Jeremiah saw a company of old men clapped in chains, he would join them and share in their ignominy until Nebuzaradan released him. Finally, Nebuzaradan said to Jeremiah, Lo, thou art one of 3 things. Either thou art a prophesier of false things, or thou art a despairer of suffering, or thou art a shedder of blood. A prophesier of false things, for since many a year hast thou been prophesying the downfall of this city. And now, when thy prophecy has come true, thou sorrowest and mourn, or a despairer of suffering, for I seek to do thee naught harmful, and thou thyself pursuest what is harmful to thee, as thou to say, I am indifferent to pain, or a shedder of blood, for the king has charged me to save careful of thee. For the king has charged me to have a care of thee, and let no harm come upon thee. But as thou insisted upon seeking evil for thyself, it must be that the king may hear of thy misfortune and put me to death. He said, look, Jeremiah, the king commissioned me to keep you alive. He said, yeah, we putting your people in chains, but the king trusts you in your prophecies from Yahuah, so we need to keep you around, right? So stop joining your people. Jeremiah, if he see his people in chains, he get right down on the ground and chains with them. That's what they said. If their heads were in stocks, if it was an open stock, he went over there and put his head. And the captain of the guard, Jeremiah, man, what are you doing? You know, these my people. Whatever, I'm no better than my people. Take us all. He's like, look, man, you're going to endanger my head to the king. The king told me to keep you alive, right? At first, Jeremiah refused Nebuzaradan's offer to let him remain in Palestine. He joined the march of the captives going to Babylon, along the highways streaming with blood and strewn with corpses. When they arrived at the borders of the Holy Land, they all, prophet and people, broke out into loud wails. And Jeremiah said, Yes, brethren and countrymen, all this hath befallen you, because you did not hearken to the words of my prophecy. Jeremiah journeyed with them until they came to the banks of the Euphrates. Then Yahuah spoke to the prophet, Jeremiah, if thou remainest here, I shall go with them. If thou goest with them, I shall remain here. Jeremiah replied, Lord of the world, if I go with them, what doth it avail them? Only if their king, their creator, accompanies them, will it bestead them. When the captives saw Jeremiah make preparations to return to Palestine, they began to weep and cry, O Father, Jeremiah, wilt thou too abandon us? I call heaven and earth to witness, said the prophet, had you wept but once in Zion, ye had not been driven out. Oh, my God. He said, listen, y'all trying to cry now? If y'all had a wept just one time while in Jerusalem, you would not be where you are today. Oh, beset with terrors was the return journey for the prophet. Corpses lay everywhere, and Jeremiah gathered up all the fingers that lay about. He strained them to his heart, fondled them, kissed them, wrapped them in his mantle, saying sadly, Did I not tell you, my children? Did I not say to you, give glory to Yahuah your God, before he caused darkness and before your feet stumble upon the dark mountains? Dejected, oppressed by his grief, Jeremiah saw the fulfillment of his prophecy against the coquettish maidens of Jerusalem who had pursued but the pleasures and the enjoyments of the world. How often had the prophet admonished them to do penance or to repent and lead a God-fearing life? In vain, whenever he threatened them with the destruction of Jerusalem, they said, "Why should we concern ourselves about it? A prince will take me unto wife," said another. The other, "A perfect will marry me." And at first, it seemed the expectations of Jerusalem's fair daughters would be realized, for the most aristocratic of the victorious Chaldeans were charmed by the beauty of the women of Jerusalem and offered them their hand and their rank. But Yahuah sent disfiguring and repulsive diseases upon the women, and the Babylonians cast them off, threw them violently out their chariots, and ruthlessly drove over the prostrate bodies. They thought they had a beautiful woman, turned around and saw a monster. Boom! Kicked them out the chariot and took off. Next section. Transportation of the captives. Nebuchadnezzar's orders were to hurry the captives along to the road to Babylon without stop or stay. He feared the Hebrews might else find opportunity to supplicate the mercy of Yahuah, and he, compassionate as he was, now, but sometimes we just don't get it. We just keep on going on and on and on until we can't go on no more. Accordingly, there was no pause in a forward march until the Euphrates was reached. There they were within the borders of the empire of Nebuchadnezzar, and he thought he had nothing more to fear. Many of the Hebrews died as soon as they drank of the Euphrates. In their native land, they had been accustomed to the water drawn from springs and wells. Mourning over their dead and over the others they had fallen by the way, they sat on the banks of the river, while Nebuchadnezzar and his princes on their vessels celebrated their victory amidst song and music. The king noticed that the princes of Judah, although they were in chains, bore no load upon their shoulders, and he called to his servants, "Have you no load for these?" They took the parchment scrolls of the law, tore them to pieces, made sacks of them, and filled them with sand. These they loaded upon the backs of the Hebrew princes. At the sight of this disgrace, Israel broke out into loud weeping. The voice of their sorrow pierced the very heavens, and Yahuah determined to turn the world once more into chaos. For he told himself that after all the world was created, but for the sake of Israel. The angels hastened thither, and they spake before Yahuah, "O Lord of the world, the universe is thine. Is that not enough that thou hast dismembered thy earthly house, the temple? Wilt thou destroy thy heavenly house too?" Yahuah restrained them and said, "Do ye think I am a creature of flesh and blood?" Let me say that again. Some of y'all catch that a little bit later. Yahuah restraining them said, "Do ye think I am a creature of flesh and blood and stand in need of consolation? Do I not know the beginning and end of all things? Go rather and remove their burdens from the princes of Judah." Aided by Yahuah, the angels descended, and they carried the loads put upon the Hebrew captives until they reached Babylon. On their way, they passed the city of Bari. The inhabitants thereof were not a little astonished at the cruelty at Nebuchadnezzar, who made the captives march naked. The people of Bari stripped their slaves of their clothes and presented the slaves to Nebuchadnezzar. When the king expressed his astonishment thereat, they said, "We thought thou wert particularly pleased with naked men." The king at once ordered the Hebrews to be arrayed in their garments. The reward accorded to the Barites was that Yahuah endowed them forever with beauty and irresistible grace. The compassionate Barites did not find many imitators. The very opposite quality was displayed by the Ammonites, Moabites, Edomites, and Arabs. Despite their kinship with Israel, their conduct toward the Hebrews was dictated by cruelty. The two first mentioned, the Ammonites and the Moabites, when they heard the prophet foretell the destruction of Israel, hastened without a moment's delay to report it to Nebuchadnezzar and urge him to attack Jerusalem. The scruples of the Babylonian king, who feared Yahuah, and all the reasons he advanced against a combat with Israel, they refuted, and finally they induced him to act as they wished. At the capture of the city, while all the strange nations were seeking booty, not booty like in a sexual way. No, I get some of y'all understand that, but some people may not. It's talking about seeking the spoils of getting their stuff. At the capture of the city, while all the strange nations were seeking booty, the Ammonites and the Moabites threw themselves into the temple to seize the scroll of the law, because it contained the clause against their entering into the assembly of Yahuah, even to the 10th generation. To disgrace the faith of Israel, they plucked the cherubim from the Holy of Holies and dragged them through the streets of Jerusalem, crying aloud at the same time, Behold, these sacred things that belong to the Israelites. Behold, these sacred things that belong to the Israelites, who say ever they have no idols. The Edomites were still more hostile in the hour of Israel's need. They went to Jerusalem with Nebuchadnezzar, but they kept themselves at a distance from the city, there to await the outcome of the battle between the Hebrews and the Babylonians. If the Hebrews had been victorious, they would have pretended to come and bring them aid. When Nebuchadnezzar's victory became known, they showed their true feelings. Those who escaped the sword of the Babylonians were hewn down by the hand of the Edomites. Okay, so if you read the Old Testament enough, right, this might sound kind of familiar. So when we get to the book of Amos, and Yahuah is checking off his list, talking to all the nations, and he getting on all of them about this time where Israel was being taken into captivity in Babylon, he began to address all those, his cousins and everybody who stood by, right? They said, some of you stood by and watched and let them be taken, although they were going anyway. It's like somebody should have came today. It is one of those kind of catch-22 things. Well, y'all, you say they was going into captivity. Should we really help? You know, but did you have an alliance with them where you should have joined in and aided them in a victory? Who knows? When Israel seen their cousins coming to help instead of pushing them into captivity, I don't know. Maybe they would have had a change of heart and reckoned it to be something that Yahuah was going to help them with. And maybe they would have repented in the process and gave all praise to Yah. And thereby, maybe this would not have turned out this way. But we clearly see it didn't. Because where we all are today, still the descendants, still scattered to the four corners, right? Although the last captivity is over and we are being restored bit by bit, we can see the spiritual sleepiness or the spiritual death being, those who were spiritually dead, they are rising from the dead, which was what Ezekiel talks about. The dead bones rising. Israel has risen from the grave, right? So that's what Ezekiel is talking about right there when he's talking about the dry bones coming back together. As we were scattered, our bones are scattered all over the earth. I mean, our people are scattered all over the earth, right? But at the end of the captivity, Yahuah begins to bring the bones back together. That's what we're doing. Son of man, can these dead bones live? Yes, they can. Prophesy to the bones and help them come back together. Right? And us coming back together is us waking up first, realizing who we are, and now beginning to work with one another, taking our pieces of the puzzle everywhere we've been scattered across the earth and all the things that have happened to us so we can stand before the Most Holy and repent. And also in that, we also gather intel from our enemies in the nations where we have been scattered to. All of us where we've been scattered to, we know the tactics on how the enemy works, especially against Yahuah's people. And if we would just exchange the information with one another, wherever we are, call it from post to post, whether we're in the United States or Oceania or in Africa or in China, Australia, Russia, wherever we're scattered to, there needs to be a common flow a line between the sons and daughters of Jacob, gathering all this intel and began to use it and build our nation, right? When Israel rebuilds itself, and as we're rebuilding ourselves, we will see that we will once again become the strongest of all the nations upon the earth. And not in our own doing, but it's because Yahuah has awakened us and he fights for us again. And he wakes us up and teaches us step by step, right? First, we got to come out of the captivity of the physical captivity where we're kind of free to move around and move about the decks, right? Move around the place. Then he has to break the mental chains that been put on our minds in captivity and all the improper teachings and all of those things. And once we can begin to see the truth, we become strong. We begin to stand on the truth and teach the truth and call out truth from post to post to all of our brethren. When you've been set free, you go back and get your brothers and set them free too, right? So now through truth, right, we conquer. And Yahuah stands and fights for us. And we are bold. We are bold. Right? So if you read through the book of Amos, that's what this is talking about. This is all this that's going on. Right? Listen, the Edomites were still more hostile in the hour of Israel's need. Oh, one more thing. If you go back and read or listen to it in a couple different versions so you can kind of see it in different ways it's conveyed. I really like the NLT version for this, but even more so, and it's kind of funny, the Message version, right? So if you get a chance to listen to it in the Message version, I'm telling you, you're gonna be quite entertained by that version of the book, the entire book of Amos. It's a real short book, but listen to it when you get a chance, right? And look at it all in context with everything that was going on with the prophets and the exile into captivity. The Edomites were still more hostile in the hour of Israel's need. They went to Jerusalem with Nebuchadnezzar, but they kept themselves at a distance from the city, there to await the outcome of the battle between the Hebrews and the Babylonians. If the Hebrews had been victorious, they would have pretended to come to bring them aid. When Nebuchadnezzar's victory became known, they showed their true feelings. Those who escaped the sword of the Babylonians were hewn down by the hand of the Edomites. And Yahuah specifically talks about this. He said, those who were trying to get away and they escaped from capture, you in turn captured them and turned them back in, or you killed them. He said, you should have helped them. But in fiendish cunning, these nations were surpassed by the Ishmaelites, our cousins, right? Our cousins. 80,000 young priests, with a golden shield upon each with a golden shield upon his breast, succeeded in making their way through the ranks of Nebuchadnezzar and in reaching the Ishmaelites. They asked for water to drink. The reply of the Ishmaelites was, first eat, and then you may drink. At the same time, handing them salt food. Their thirst was increased, and the Ishmaelites gave them leather bags filled with nothing but air. The Ishmaelites gave them leather bags filled with nothing but air instead of water. When they raised them to their mouths, the air entered their bodies and they fell dead. Other Arabic tribes showed their hostility openly as the Palmyrines, who put 80,000 archers at the disposal of Nebuchadnezzar in his war against Israel. All right, y'all, we're moving to the next section. Shayla, this is funny because we was talking about this last night. This next section is called the Sons of Moses. That's funny. If Nebuchadnezzar thought that once he had the Jews in the regions of the Euphrates, they were in his power forever, he was greatly mistaken. It was on the very banks of the great river that he suffered the loss of a number of his captives. When the first stop was made by the Euphrates, the Jews could no longer contain their grief, and they broke out into tears and bitter lamentations. Nebuchadnezzar bade them be silent, and as though to render obedience to his orders the harder, he called upon the Levites, the minstrels of the temple, to sing songs of Zion for the entertainment of his guests at the banquet he had arranged. Let us hear some of those Negro spirituals. Sing us one of them Negro spirituals. They still say that to our people. They sing us a song. Sing us one of them sweet songs of Zion. They like to be entertained by the voices of the sons and daughters of Jacob. They don't do that to nobody else. Nebuchadnezzar bade them be silent, and as though to render obedience to his orders the harder, he called upon the Levites, the minstrels of the temple, to sing the songs of Zion for the entertainment of his guests at the banquet he had arranged. The Levites consulted with one another. Not enough that the temple lies in ashes because of our sins. Should we add to our transgression by coaxing music from the strings of our holy harps in honor of these dwarfs? They said. They determined to offer resistance. The murderous Babylonians mowed them down in heaps, yet they met death with high courage. For it saved their sacred instruments from the desecration of being used before idols for the sake of idolaters. He said, boy, they got the strength of them boys that it's a couple people that went through the fiery furnace. No, you can kill us first, because we ain't playing our songs for you dirty people. Absolutely not. I will not defile my instruments for you. We'll take death instead, right? Imagine what kind of faith in Yah and how much confidence you got to say to do that. A lot of people talk that talk until something happens in our day. Then they realize when they get in dire straits, how much they truly trust the Most High, right? Panic situations and distress will bring out what's really lying underneath and inside of you. The Levites who survived the carnage, the sons of Moses, they were, hold on, what? I read it wrong. Okay. The Levites who survived the carnage, the sons of Moses, they were, bit off their own fingers, and when they were asked to play, they showed their tyrants mutilated hands with which it is impossible to manipulate their hearts. That's serious. Some moms said we'd rather die than play. Some moms say, we'll cut off our fingers first before we play a song for you. Whew. At fall of night, a cloud descended and enveloped the sons of Moses and all who belonged to them. They were hidden from their enemies, while their own way was illuminated by a pillar of fire. The cloud and the pillar vanished at break of day, and before the sons of Moses laid track. Hold on. The cloud and the pillar vanished at break of day, and before the sons of Moses lay a tract of land bordered by the sea on three sides. I'm sorry, y'all. Sometimes the commas and stuff not in the right place. And it threw me off for a second so I get what it's saying. For their complete protection, Yahuah made the river Sambation. No, that's not how you pronounce it. I know that. I forget the proper pronunciation, but Sambation. I did some research on this river. I don't think that's a proper pronunciation for it. I looked at it in a okay, I'm gonna just keep reading. For their complete protection, Yahuah made the river Sambation to flow on the fourth side. This river is full of sand and stones, and on the 6 working days of the week, they tumble over each other with such vehemence that the crash and the roar are heard far and wide. But on the Sabbath, the tumultuous river subsides into quiet. That's right. That's why, because somebody had mentioned this a while ago when I was studying. I forget what I was looking for, but they was talking about some Hebrews who had actually gotten away during the exile, and they crossed over this river, right? And the Babylonians didn't understand that this river, it was like a supernatural river, right? All throughout the week for like 6 days. And like the only time anybody was able to cross it was on the Sabbath, because on the Sabbath, even this river obeyed Yahuah's command, right? So, and they knew that. And although they weren't supposed to travel on the Sabbath, they were fleeing from captivity, and they kind of made their way to this time until the Sabbath. And when the Sabbath came, they knew because the river quieted itself and they all got past on the river, right? And so for some of those who actually saw it, or some people would kind of tipped off to it, that they had gone in this direction. I'm gonna have to pull that story up. I gotta look through my notes. Man, it's been a couple years. Hold on. And I was trying to find the actual coordinates of it. And it's a couple people with a couple videos up there, but I still haven't quite pinpointed exactly where it is over in Africa. But I gotta, when I get it, I'm gonna let y'all know. But this is a real river, y'all. Clearly all of it's real, but that's why I be trying to pinpoint locations so I can get stuff. I'm like, okay, where we at? I'm trying to get the coordinates and the landmass, all that stuff together. Okay. But on the Sabbath, the tumultuous river subsides into quiet. As a guard against trespassers on that day, a column of cloud stretches along the whole length of the river, and none can approach the Sambaton within 3 miles. Hedged in as they are, the sons of Moses yet communicate with their brethren of the tribes of Naphtali. Hold on, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't need to answer that. But every time a call comes, it kicks the screen off. Okay. Hedged in as they are, the sons of Moses yet communicate with their brethren of the tribes of Naphtali, Gad, and Asher, who dwell near the banks of the Sambaton. Carrier pigeons bear letters hither and thither. In the land of the sons of Moses, there are none but clean animals, and in every aspect the inhabitants lead a holy and pure life, worthy of their ancestor Moses. They never use an oath, and if perchance an oath escape the lips of one of them, he is at once reminded of the divine punishment connected with his act. His children will die at a tender age. The sons of Moses live peaceably and enjoy prosperity as equals through their common Hebrew faith. They have need of neither prince nor judge, for they know not strife and litigation. Each works for the welfare of the community, and each takes from the common store only what will satisfy his needs. Their houses are built of equal height, that no one may deem himself above his neighbor, and that the fresh air may not be hindered from playing freely about alike. Even at night, the doors stand wide open, for they have naught of fear from thieves, nor wild animals known in their land. Nor are wild animals known in their land. They all attain a good old age. The son never dies before the father. When a death occurs, there is rejoicing, because the departed is known to have entered into life everlasting in loyalty to his faith. The birth of a child, on the other hand, calls forth mourning, for who can tell whether the being ushered into the world will be pious and faithful? The dead are buried near the doors of their own houses, in order that their survivors, in all their comings and goings, may be reminded of their own end. Disease is unknown among them, for they never sin, and sickness is sent only to purify from sins. Anybody listening to that? Think about it. Because if this is a whole nother teaching in itself. Listen. Disease is unknown among them, for they never sin, and sickness is sent only to purify from sins, right? Because a lot of times y'all can't get our attention unless something is going wrong in our body, right? And it doesn't have to be like any grave sin, like sins that we would think would be atrocious, right? But it could be something that could trip you up in your later days. It could be it could be like procrastination and stuff like that. Like seriously, when things start going wrong in your life, especially when you name yourself a child of the Most High, when things seem to start getting out of whack just a little bit, we should first stop and consider our ways, right? All the time, Yahuah tells us that if things start going haywire, stop and consider your ways. Wait a minute, Joshua, get the people up. Stop praying to me. There's sin in the camp. Go find out where it's located. That's why all this havoc is going on, right? Let's see. I think we'll stop right here for today. Yes, because the baby is down the stairs. So we'll stop right here for today, y'all. We'll pick it up with Ebed Melech.
Mom.
Yeah. Yes, baby girl.
Can you give me Carmex?
Can I give you Carmex?
Yep.
Go look in your purse. I thought I gave you one yesterday. It's not in your purse? 476. Okay. All right, y'all. So we'll pick this up tomorrow when we come on. We ended up page.
Come downstairs again.
Okay, pretty. Yep, she did. All right, y'all. So we read 2 Samuel 22, 23, and 24, and we read the section in the Legends of the Jews on page 473 to page 476. It is Friday, April the 9th, 2021, day 123 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And of the consecutive 3-year day count, day 792. We be well into almost 1,000-day count, y'all. If we counted the Sabbaths and the feast days, Sabbath days, but we don't, because Yahuah tell us to rest on those days. So that's what we do. We rest. So tomorrow, y'all, remember, we come in 15 minutes later on the weekend, Saturdays and Sundays, if the Sabbath doesn't fall on one of those days, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. No, baby. You put it back. Okay, thank you. I'm not going to eat it. All right, so let's pull up the blessing. All right, y'all, remember the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Remember the Nazarite. In the world's that? Go see if somebody fell off the bed. I know y'all heard that loud crash. Look. Okay. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Remember, man or woman can take the Nazarite vow. I think everybody should consider it at least once in their life, right? Yahuah does marvelous things with Nazarites, whether it's seen or unseen. Yahuah uses them in some form or fashion, right? But don't do it just because you think he might do something with you. Do it because you truly honor him and you want to set yourself aside for a time to be totally dedicated to him, right? And what comes, comes. What doesn't come, doesn't come. Just know you've gotten close and you had this chance to learn and know more about him and become intimate with him, right? And possibly you might be known by him as his friend, as he called Abraham his friend. Maybe he'll speak face to face with you like he spoke face to face with Moses, right? Maybe, just maybe. Maybe. I think about those things because he said the things that's going to happen in our day, he told Daniel to seal up. He said, seal that up, Daniel. We're going to reveal that to them when I wake them up in the future. Right? Hey. And Yahuah spake to Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise, ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Whose name are we to put on Yahuah's children? Who are we to call his children by? His own name, right? When we get in trouble, who do we call on? We call on our daddy, right? And we got to know who our daddy is. We should know our daddy's name, shouldn't we? We should know our dad's name. Think about it. Think about this principle, y'all. About Yahuah. Remember the other day we was talking about the ineffable name, like the Jewish people, who I explained it a little bit. They call the name, you have like the 72 letter name of Yahuah, 42 letter name of Yahuah. They just kind of pull it out of scripture, right? Mom, and the different letters in it.
Open and failed.
Okay. He okay? Okay, yeah, he okay. Here he comes with his blanket. Okay, so
you said you were done.
I'm almost done. Give me a couple minutes, sis. So with his name, they say it's ineffable, right? But if you have children, wouldn't you want your children to know your name? Your name shouldn't be ineffable to your children. Matter of fact, Yahuah is jealous about his own name. He constantly said, I'm jealous about my own name. Make my name famous, right? But by making his name ineffable, it causes us to forget it, right? And it's like, who do we call out to when we get in trouble? We can just truly hope and believe that when we cry out from our heart of hearts, thinking we know, and we crying out to the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that the great prophets talked about, whom they served, Isaiah, Ezekiel, Zechariah, Zephaniah, Jeremiah, the God that they served, the God that spoke to them, right? We're crying out to him, but we should know his name, because what if you get lost? Think about this, y'all. What if your child gets lost and your child did not know your name, right? Somebody comes along to help them. Okay, who do you belong to? But what if your child didn't know that? It would be really hard for your child to get back home, wouldn't it? Same principle with knowing Yahuah. That's why a lot of our people, they don't get saved. They don't even know who their God is, right? Not that they're on purpose worshiping another God, but just for technical explanation, right? Hear the lesson in it. If you don't say you get in extreme trouble immediately, like you have no phone number or anything, you really just kind of like wasting energy hollering out in the air because you don't know the direct number to call your dad. Hey, I'm in trouble. Come get me, right? It makes it a whole lot easier. We become intimate when we know people's name. We tend to become a little more intimate with them, right? We learn a little bit more about them because our name, think about how we think about our own name, right? We don't really take too kindly of people calling us out of our name or calling us by name. Like, I used to get perturbed. Like, some people, and I get it, people make mistakes. Hey, Pat. Pam. Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. I thought I heard somebody call you Pat. No, it's Pam, right? So, but people, a lot of times they'll fix it real quick. But you got some people's like, John, no, my name is Mark. Okay, John. First is like you do that little look like, he still just called me a name that I told him wasn't mine. I know it seemed like a little childish to us, but just think about it. If we are that jealous over our own names, how much more the creator of heaven and earth, right? How much more does the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God we serve, right? How much more is he jealous of his own name? How can we really tell others about him if we don't even know his name? Even Moses said, well, when I go to these people to let them know that you God, what name am I going to tell them? You know, a lot of people say they stop at I am that I am. But if you read down a little bit further, he actually says his name. It says Yahuah. Just read down just a little bit further. He says his own name. That is my name forever among all my children. This is the name you give them. This is my name forever. Although when you look in the Hebrew, when they talk about the 72 letter name and a 42 letter name, it's a compilation of attributes added to his name that kind of changes the name a little bit, right? So you'll see down, I've posted it quite a few times. And in the description box today, you can go in there and look, and I'll add it. So you can see, even the video that I did on Passover, I did like a little blurb, right? And that's not the all in all, but those are just different attributes added to Yahuah's name, to whereby sometimes when you read in the Old Testament, here's a good example. I'm going to tell you this example because people, if they don't understand this about the Hebrew language, they get it all combunkled up and discombobulated, right? So when it's talking about it, when you're reading about Hezekiah, right, they're talking about, oh, wonderful counselor, Prince of Peace, right? What they did right there, if you didn't know, first of all, they were talking about King Hezekiah. They were not talking about JC. Matter of fact, I think I did a whole video explaining that, right? And I gave all the references because you have to read the previous 2 chapters. Actually, I think it's the previous 3 chapters and the chapter ahead. And you can even go on to the next chapter, right? That's something my mama taught me growing up. To make sure you're reading stuff in context, whatever you're reading, you need to go back and read the preceding 2 chapters and the 2 chapters ahead of it before you draw your conclusion on what this is talking about. A lot of times it will explain itself within the entire chapter, but sometimes you need to go back. That's a rule of thumb. Always go back 2 chapters, preferably 3. In my case, now I understand, preferably 3. and go at least 2 or 3 ahead, just to make sure you have the entire story, what's going on in context, so you don't derive some other meaning and interpretation, which has been done a lot. And especially with this particular portion right here, Mighty Counselor, Prince of Peace, they take that and say, oh, this was a foretelling of JC. No, my G, they took the meaning of Hezekiah's name and expanded it in long form, and they removed his name from there, but they were talking about the King Hezekiah. Go look it up. Read it. Go read it. Go read it. Matter of fact, I think I'll put that. Let me make myself a note. What am I pen? Oh, stuff came back. That way you can go see that. I know I did a long video when I was explaining that, but I know I actually got the notes, Hezekiah's name. Yahuah. But I'll put the video in there, and I also put the notes so you can look at it. And I did it. I used a couple examples of different names, because, like I said, if people don't understand that while they're studying, they're going to get an improper understanding of it, and therefore your understanding is just kind of thrown off. It's not complete, especially in that particular thing right there, y'all. So I'm gonna share that with you. But just know Yahuah is jealous about his own name, and we are to use it. And it shouldn't be ineffable, as some people say it, and when they replace it with general terms like Hashem or God or Lord or Adonai, Yahuah said, use my name. He said, there is power in my name and in my name alone, right? So I just wanted to bring that out so we can get in the habit of doing that. I know our Bibles have the general terms in it, but if you read the preface and the introductions, it tells you that it replaced his name and put in general terms, right? It's because they're trying to erase him from history, right? Even we know that. We didn't have to get into all that. We're at the end of our time anyway. But what we want to do is we want to make his name known, and we want to stop speaking the names of false gods that we didn't know growing up, that they were names of false gods, right? Just like they tried to make him disappear, we're going to make all of them disappear by never speaking their names ever again. We're going to bring complete ruin. We're going to take those names in vain. And the way of taking those names in vain is never using them again. We will make them ineffable and speak the name of the Most Holy, right? Yahuah Seba Wuti, right? Okay. I love y'all. That's it. Oh, Trina, you made a good point. Oh, let me say this. Trina said, oh, I know you. We go way back. Look, Trina said, I don't like it when people who don't know me call me Trina. I tell them my name is Katrina, right? So when you get to know somebody, like, think about it with your spouse, right? Or people, your friends that have nicknames, only people who know you intimately, and that not meaning sexually, but are close companions with you and kind of like grown up with you, or you develop some type of friendship or relationship, you get passes with using affectionate names towards them because they know you. We're intimate. You know me and I know you, right? So people that call, I introduce, unless I already know you, I introduce myself as Pamela. But, we know each other. Call me Pam, But same thing, like you can't just go out and call, although some people try it, and some people have I ain't gonna say a bad habit, but people like to refer to everybody with terms of endearment. Sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. It's okay if the person who you want to confer that sweet name upon will accept it, right? But a lot of time, if people don't know you, they are like, my name is John, man. So some people don't like it, some people do, but yeah. So, but a lot of times we'll realize when we become more intimate with Yah, we get affectionate terms for him. Like we talked about this before, because somebody had asked. They said, we know you should call him the Most Holy. I said, oh, and I had to give an example. I said, because as Yahuah is waking me up and he's showing me different, I said, oh, it just blows my mind. I said, oh, you are the most holy. You are the most holy. And that's just kind of, I ain't gonna say my pet name, but it's an affectionate term that I give to him, because on a personal level, he showed me how holy he is and how we should be just as holy, try to strive to be just as holy and perfect as he is, right? Some people may call him Abba or Baba or whatever, but it all comes with knowing someone and being in a relationship with them, right? So as we begin to learn about the character of Yah, as we read the Old Testament, and that's something I'm gonna bring up. This is gonna be the last point. I mentioned it to somebody yesterday. When we don't actually take the time and read through the Old Testament, we just kind of skim through it for the sake of just being a good student, and we're trying to connect the dots from the Old Testament to the New and just teachings and everything. We miss something, right? Not saying that you shouldn't do that, but you really should take the time. Like I say this all the time when we start over. I said, take the time to just read through it. Read through it like you would read through any other book, right? Read through it for the simple enjoyment of understanding the story, understanding who the characters are, what they did, who their family is, who is this God that they serve, right? Once you become intimate with the story, where you're not always trying to derive spiritual principles from it, and that's where we get it all chopped and screwed, y'all. People try to derive spiritual principles from things that they have no intimacy with. It doesn't happen that way. And when we do that, we look bad. And people can tell, it's like, you read that, but you don't know what you read, did you? You see it all the time because they pull scriptures all out of the place. I was like, how did you get that? No, that's not. You don't even know the story of the people, do you? So once you understand, you go through, and you got to do that a couple times, right? You got to read it through a couple times and make sure you truly understand the family history. Just think about your own family, right? You are intimate with details of your family, whether it's your immediate family, sister, brothers, but you're even more intimate with the details of your expanded family, where it's aunts and uncles and cousins and stuff, to whereas somebody, maybe a friend or a family who hasn't grown up with you, will come in and they'll see something and they may not understand. They don't understand the language, the lingo, the ebonics of this family and what's going on. And they could go tell our story the wrong way because you heard about us, but you don't know us, right? It's the same thing. It's like you hear about it, but you really don't know him, right? And so we have to acquaint ourselves with this family. So we have to get in there and we read all the details about them and why they always at each other's throats and why is all this, and Yahuah, he said he gonna do this, but he always bringing them back. All these, and once you get intimate with those details and just fall in love with the story, the spiritual principles on another level will just come to you, So, but when we don't do that, you miss his character and how he operates and how he deals with his children and how long-suffering and forgiving he has always been and always will be. He simply wants his children, if you get it wrong, just come back, Daddy, I messed up. I'm sorry. Yep, you did. We'll go ahead and clean up this mess now. You got to go pay for this because you didn't tow this up. You need to restore that. Go fix that. And some things say, listen, now it's life for life. That life did not belong to you. You got to come to me, right? Yeah. But I'll extend it a few more years for you. But that, you got to pay for that, right? So it's just like that, y'all. With that being said, y'all, that's it. We're at the end of our reading today. I love y'all. Get some sleep. Sleep in an extra 15 minutes tomorrow because it is Saturday. We'll be here 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I love y'all. Peace. Bye, y'all.